Welcome back to Shake Some Dust. This evening I am watching the sunset down over the mountains just outside of Quartzsite, Arizona. And it is beautiful. It's good to be back in Quartzsite. I was up in Havasu for a little while and just needed a change of scenery, and I got that. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about New Year and New Year resolutions, what's been going on in my life. But first, I want to give a shout out to some amazing products that I've been using. This is my obligatory plug, and it helps keep the lights on. So bear with me, but I always talk about stuff that I really enjoy using and has been good, so it's not just blowing smoke up your ass. Anyway, you know what I really get annoyed by? Just on a, kind of a side note here. I get annoyed by when I watch a YouTube video and they always say without further ado, and then they jabber on for like 10 more minutes. That's plenty of ado. We don't need any more ado. We're good. So I recently set up a shop on my Wayward account, and you can click on the link in the bio and in the information, the show notes, I guess is what they call it. Click on the link and it'll take you to it. Wanted to include a couple of hacks, and that's what I'm talking about that's in the shop. First hack is I realized when I was up in Havasu that it's harder to get water. So you'd think like it's right next to a lake. Well, it's like Arizona, only all the water that you have available up there is water you have to pay for. So out here by Quartzsite, you can just go to the rest area and use any of the pumps for potable water that they've got in the rest areas. And I usually just run a garden hose from the pump and pump it directly into my tanks in the back of my bus. Unfortunately, you can't do that up in Havasu unless you're at an RV park, which is anywhere between $40 a night on up. So, to save money, because I'm boondocking, and that's kind of the whole point of boondocking, I found a workaround with that. So all around Arizona and the Southwest, they have these desalinization plants, or these little desalinization water stations. And sometimes it's in like a strip mall, sometimes it's a kiosk just hanging out in front of a shop or out in a mall or parking lot or something. And you can fill up anywhere between 1 and 6-gallon containers. They're not really big enough for the old-fashioned jerry cans, but those are hardly used anymore anyway. I mean, you see them on somebody's off-road vehicle once in a while, but usually it's this kind of blocky 6-gallon blue containers. Anyway, I just want to say that I found a workaround with that is awesome. And it's simple. I just got a fish tank pump. So like if you've had an aquarium and you know what it's like to clean a fish tank and vacuum out the gravel every once in a while, they make these pumps that are basically like a siphon with a bulb on it. And you give it a couple of squeezes and it siphons the water out. And what I do is I fill up my 6-gallon container in the kiosk. Then I bring it into my bus and I put that siphon vacuum pump into the water, and then I can pump it directly into the bus where I would usually run my hose. So that was a great workaround. And essentially I can get water anyplace now. And it's actually pretty cheap. Those kiosks, they run about 25 cents a gallon at the most. Sometimes they're a lot cheaper. So really 6 gallons of water is $1.50. So it's really not that bad. The other hack that I found out, it kind of goes hand in hand with the water pump thing, because some of these stores, they sell ice and the reverse osmosis water. Now, reverse osmosis is when they take, they can desalinize water. They can take just about any kind of water there is. They run it through a process called reverse osmosis. And it pretty much makes a product about like distilled water. So that's what you're buying at these RO facilities. Anyway, they also sell ice there, and they sell block ice. And I have a Mule Canyon cooler, or a Canyon Mule cooler. It's a 30-liter cooler, I believe. And I got that as a backup because I've learned one thing out on the road is you always have to have a backup. And if your backup doesn't have a backup, you need to back that up because something will fail eventually or something is going to happen where you need to use that backup. So I have this cooler and these 7-pound blocks of ice that they sell at these RO facilities fit perfectly in the cooler. So pretty much my cooler and my refrigerator stay at about the same temperature. And the reason I have a cooler and a refrigerator is sometimes my solar batteries don't hold enough juice to keep the fridge running, so I have to turn it off at night. And if you don't, then sometimes it'll drain your batteries down to the point where you can't even pump water out of your tank, or you can't run your interior lighting because they're all connected and there's only a certain amount of voltage. This time of year, the sun is so low that you really don't get a full voltage. My solar panel is a 250-watt system, and during the day, with the angle of the sun right now, the most I get out of it is about 100 watts. So you kind of have to have a double redundancy system. So I got this Mule cooler. It's also on my list. And the ice blocks from the RO places fit perfectly in there. They're about 350. And in this cooler, they last about anywhere between 5 and 7 days before they've completely melted off. Keeps everything nice and cool. The only thing is you have to continually drain your cooler or else it's going to make everything soggy in the cooler. So the other hack that I had was Merry Christmas to me. A couple of weeks ago, I realized I was running out of butane canisters for my cook stove, and I've got a single burner cook stove that runs off of butane. It's been working great. The problem is you can't always find these butane containers. So sometimes you can go to Walmart, you can find them. They're about, I would say, $2.50 a piece, sometimes $3 a piece, depending on which Walmart you go to. The problem is in Havasu, they didn't have anywhere that had any of these butane containers. So when I cook, that's how you make your coffee, that's how you make your tea, that's how you cook your meals. And it's the only fuel that I had available for cooking. Out in the desert, you really don't want to make campfires every day. For one thing, you smell like smoke all the time. That loses its charm pretty quick. And the other thing is just for the conservation of the wood and the brush in the area, if they had people just like ripping out all the vegetation to start fires, we would have just horrible, horrible erosion and everything would look terrible. So generally, you have to pack in your firewood if you're going to start any kind of fire. A lot of places use pallets. That's a whole other problem too because the pallets have nails in them. So you get a lot of campsites that have nails that you can drive over in your RV. And that's no good either. So Merry Christmas to me was I got a dual fuel system that runs off of both butane and propane canisters. And you can find the link for that in the show notes as well. It's all in my Wayward shop. Go check it out. They've got some great stuff. And like I said, everything that I have listed in this shop is stuff that I'm using currently or is on my wish list that I want to install in the bus to make life that much easier. Anyway, without further ado, New Year. So I left Havasu. And the short of what happened is my neighbors just kind of got a little odd. I mean, they were odd to begin with. You kind of have to be odd to be in this lifestyle anyway. But they had ridden out from Montana all along the Pacific Coast Highway on e-bikes with little solar trailers. And they were making YouTube videos. And, it's like everybody, even like myself. We're trying to document these things. I'm doing it because I want to help other people along. And for me, it's a great way to kind of overcome my learning curve. I always like to be able to teach other people as I learn, and it helps me be a better learner and adapt quicker. I think they were doing it in some kind of weird, misguided Timmy Treadwell kind of like Grizzly Man kind of thing that was about to happen. There was some drama. I went to a cookout that the guy had. The lady was nowhere to be found because apparently they had gotten into it over just weird, random, stranger stuff. And she was in Havasu, probably at the casino or probably at the bar. And the guy hosted a campfire. He had steaks and hamburgers, and a couple of the other neighbors came by. And just the weirdness, the fact that he was constantly coming over, like he came over earlier that day with a guitar in a case. And he asked me if I played, and I said no. And he said, well, I don't either. And the economy of space on your bus, it's just kind of like, then why are you carrying around stuff that you don't know how to use? It just kind of seemed weird to me. So, I don't know. People have musical instruments, but I don't carry around a whole-ass guitar that I don't know how to play. So, it was just weird because he came over, and I was trying to get things done. I was trying to work, trying to write. I had a deadline for that day. And so eventually, just to kind of get him to go away, I humored him. And when he asked to sit down next to me, you know, he said, let's sit down and just look out across the valley. And I did that. And so he said, let's just take all this in and just enjoy the moment. I'm like, okay. And he immediately starts blathering on about his theories about the universe and everything else. And they're all wacky. And I really got tired of that after a while. His conspiracy theories and his ideas about aliens and everything else like that. I didn't have the bandwidth for it. I probably mentioned that in the last episode. So I went to the cookout and enjoyed eating actual steak for once, which was nice. It was nice, but I think that he gave me his girlfriend's steak because she was gone, and I thought that was a little bit odd in retrospect. So anyway, I just decided I am not going to deal with these people anymore, and I packed everything up that night. I had everything ready to go. All I had to do was pull my window shades out and leave, which is what I did. So I headed out. I did my good old Irish goodbye, and I headed north out of Havasu after doing some errands. I did laundry and that kind of thing, got Dutch Bros, probably for the last time for a long time. Oh, no, that's not true, because I had Dutch Bros later. I'll get into that. So anyway, I headed up into California, and I went into Needles, California, and I mentioned this before, but diesel fuel was $7 a gallon up there. The streets were empty. There was no activity. The place looked like a ghost town, and the people that I did see just had this kind of sad, depressed, disheveled look. Some of the people that I did see out on the streets were high on fentanyl, you could tell. And then the other people just looked like down on their luck, just hanging on by a thread. I stayed in Needles exactly as long as it took to pull over and check a couple of messages that I had on my phone and then head back south into the desert in California. Wound up at a place called the Heart of the Mojave, which is on the Heritage Trail. And it was beautiful. It was kind of close to a highway. There was only one other camper out there, and it was flat. It was level, clean. There was no wind, and it was. I even had good 5G service, so I could just sit down and get some work done. Well, I pulled in, did a little bit of work, and I recorded a podcast out there. And then the next day was New Year's Eve, and I just was kind of, I don't know, just, as they say, in my feels, and I just was texting some friends, and I'd get a response back. Sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes it feels like I've dropped off of the face of the earth, and people are respecting that, which is fine, but then I also remember what it was like when I was married to just kind of go off the radar, and then just nobody cares, and that hole that they had reserved for you, that space in their lives, fills in pretty quickly with other things, and you kind of get forgotten. I was just kind of feeling very isolated, and I definitely didn't want to go back to Havasu for New Year's Eve drama. So I just kind of felt out of place and empty, and I couldn't quite explain it. And I was looking at Facebook, and a friend of mine that I spent Thanksgiving with in Phoenix had posted about waffling about whether or not she was going to go to a New Year's Eve party. And I said, yeah, go. And meanwhile, all of her other friends were like, no, I would stay home. That's what I always do on New Year's Eve. I go to bed at 10 o'clock. And, she's kind of in my position too, where it's like she was out of the country for a couple of years. And when she came back, everybody else got on with their lives and they kind of forgot about her. And now she's just trying to catch up. She's trying to build her own social structure and network. And she didn't want to just sit at home and do nothing and go to bed early. I mean, most of us just do that every day anyway. So why not start the new year off with something different, because nothing else seems to be working. So she was trying to decide. And I jokingly said, well, I'm even further out. Too bad I can't come out, because I would go. And she was like, well, if you came out, I would definitely go. And I got to thinking, and something inside of me stirred, and it was just kind of like, I felt like the needle on a compass just was turning in that direction. And I didn't get that feeling at all, just camped out in the middle of the Mojave Desert. I kind of just felt like I had reached the margin of the page, and that's where I was at. And I needed to make some kind of a change. I needed to follow that feeling. So I loaded everything up in the bus, and I headed out, and it was about a 3.5 hour drive back to Phoenix, and went to a house party with complete strangers. And this friend of mine that I've known for like 30 years, she Forrest Gumped me into the party. So it was great. Some of the best experiences of my life have been that, where it's like I don't know anybody, but I've got a connection, and then they bring me along, and I get to hang out with some pretty cool people. And this party was crazy. It was people our age, and probably anywhere between late 30s to 50s, maybe 60s for some people. There was dancing. The theme was 70s, 80s, and 90s. And so people were all just kind of dressed up in their 70s, 80s, and 90s clothes. And it was fun. The music was very nostalgic because it was mostly 90s music, like TLC and Belle Biv DeVoe and, Naughty by Nature and all these old bands and stuff. This friend of mine and I used to actually dance to at high school dances and stuff that we'd gone together, because we had a mutual friend that I was dating at the time. So it was funny. It brought back a lot of things. So that was great. I mean, I headed back. I was in Phoenix for just the night, went to this party, and had a great time. And it was great meeting people, and it kind of affirmed something that I was beginning to doubt. And the big doubt that I was having was that I'm out on this journey, and a lot of it's solitude. A lot of it's just lonely and quiet, but alone and quiet, not so much lonely. Although that morning I did feel lonely. It just was kind of like just bleh. And I thought, what if there's something broken in me? What if I can't people anymore? What if I'm not social or good at it? And the people like the neighbors in Havasu is what I'm stuck with. And it kind of scared me a little bit. But going to that New Year's Eve party, it kind of woke me up, and it was just like, yeah, I can still people. I'm still social. I'm not some weird hermit living out in the desert quite yet. So it was good. It reaffirmed my belief in myself and my ability to be social and still somewhat normal, even though what I'm doing is very unusual. So anyway, I've got a couple of minutes left on this show. This is going to be the first month of doing the podcast that I actually used up all the allotted time that I purchased from my podcast platform. So that's kind of cool. I might actually run out of time before I even get done with this stuff. Anyway, it rained all day today. My solar panels are pretty low, but I feel good about everything. And I have some decisions I made for 2024. I'm not doing resolutions because resolutions are stupid and they're just things that people give up on before February. So some of my decisions that I'm planning on doing is to be more organized. And living on the road really helps with that kind of thing. You have to be clean. I cleaned my bus all morning today and noticed a couple of things were broken that I need to fix eventually. It helps you to build a routine, and you can check off something every day. And at least that's my hope, is that if I have something to do, whether it's an assignment or a podcast or writing some content or pitching some stories, I will just start checking those off every day. And a routine will organically form itself. I also want to take more pictures and videos, and I've been getting back into that again. I love photography, and I'm getting better at it as I go. I want to build a better writing routine. I want to keep improving and keep pitching stories to magazines. I pitched 3 or 4 yesterday, and I want to keep creating in different things that really push my comfort zones. So not just writing content for websites or writing fiction or stories or things like that, but just really getting into other things. I tried writing some journalistic stuff, and I really like doing that. I like the research, the connection with people to find out what's going on, what you need to do. And that's about it. The future of the podcast and the YouTube channel. YouTube channel is a little bit tougher. I'm not producing stuff as quickly as I'd like. Sometimes it's kind of daunting because you have to compile all the videos. And then I feel a little self-conscious about narration. I kind of feel like this is so pretentious, and who's really going to even watch this? Nobody is right now. But I enjoy doing it, and I have to keep that in mind, that sometimes you have to do something just because you want to have fun doing it. You want to challenge yourself and push yourself. It doesn't have to be the money-making thing. Nobody gets rich off of this stuff. I would say maybe less than 0.1% of people are actually making money off of videos and podcasts. But the joy of it, the connection that you get from people. I have people that email me or text me, and they say that they enjoy listening to the sound of my voice. They enjoy the adventures that I get to go on and my insights and stories. And to all you people out there that listen this far, I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much for letting me know that I'm doing something good. And that's about it. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I am using up the last of my time allocated for this month. Happy New Year, happy 2024, and I hope this is your year. Thanks for listening. Bye for now. Once again, don't forget to check the show notes for my shop. It helps support this site as well as my other projects that I've got going on, so I can continue to bring you really good content. I think it is anyway. And stories from the road. Thanks a lot.